Hello friends, welcome to a new chapter today. In this chapter we are going to learn about the diverticular disease of esophagus. So in the diverticular disease of esophagus, first we are going to learn about there are three types, that is pharyngoesophageal diverticulum or Zenker's diverticulum, which is the most common type of diverticulum. Then we have mid-esophageal or parabronchial diverticulum, which is traction diverticulum or through the diverticulum, which involves this all areas. So what does this mean is, for the false diverticulum only mucosa is involved, but for true diverticulum the true diverticulum forms due to the outpouching of both mucosa, submucosa, muscularis layer and serosa. So that is true diverticula, which is traction diverticula, that is mid esophageal or parabronchial diverticula. Then we have epiphrenic or supradiaphragmatic diverticula. This is present above the diaphragm, and this is a type of pulsion diverticula. That is, it occurs because of the increased pressure of esophagus. So it is called as pulsion diverticula. Okay, so this pharyngoesophageal or Zenker's diverticula and epinephric or supradiaphragmatic diverticula are false diverticula. That means here the diverticula which is produced are contains only mucosa only. Okay, then we have something called as first we will see the each of them in detail. So first diverticula is epiphrenic diverticula. This epiphrenic diverticula is present in the last 10 centimeters of the esophagus. So this is epiphrenic diverticula. Okay, here it is associated with motility disorders like diffuse esophageal spasm, nutcracker esophagus and achalasia cardia. It is a pulsion diverticulum which occurs due to increased intraluminal pressure, right? Because of increased intraluminal pressure, there is outpouching of the mucosa which occurs, that is called as epiphrenic diverticulum. It is most commonly seen on the right side and it is also wide mouthed. This epiphrenic diverticulum is present on the right side and it is wide mouthed. We have associated with this epiphrenic diverticula is associated with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and trauma also in the patients with normal motility. This epiphrenic diverticula, investigation of choice is we can do barium swallow for this epiphrenic diverticula, and so from barium swallow we will measure it. If it's less than 2 centimeters in size, then no treatment is necessary. If it's more than 2 centimeters only, then you should do the treatment, that is diverticulopexy, diverticulectomy or myotomy should be done. Okay, okay, so we have in barium swallow, I'm just showing you the picture also. So this is the epiphrenic diverticulum which is shown in this picture. Okay, the barium swallow. Then we have something called as mid-esophageal or parabronchial diverticulum, or it is also called as traction diverticulum. In this mid-esophageal or parabronchial diverticulum, the most common cause is TB. The most common cause historically is TB, but if you see now presently, the most common cause of this mid-esophageal diverticulum is histoplasmosis, mediastinal fibrosis. Okay, then what it is associated with primary motility disorders, like it is associated with diffuse esophageal spasm and achalasia. So if you see the clinical features, this mid-esophageal or parabronchial diverticulum is mostly asymptomatic. Rarely it can lead to dysphagia and chest pain also. It is most commonly it is asymptomatic, but rarely it can lead to dysphagia and chest pain, but mostly it is asymptomatic. This mid-esophageal diverticulum is mostly present on the right side, and has any other diverticulum we use barium swallow to diagnose it. Okay, if you see, you can do CT scan, endoscopy and manometry can be done. For treatment, if the diverticulum is less than 2 centimeters, then no treatment is required. If the diverticulum is more than 4 centimeters, then you will have to do surgery, where diverticulopexy can be done in this mid-esophageal diverticulum. I'll show you the picture. better now. So this is the picture of mid-esophageal diverticulum, okay, which is a true diverticulum or traction diverticulum. Then this is Zenker's diverticulum. So what is this Zenker's diverticulum or pharyngeal pouch? Here there is an outpouching which is present between the thyropharyngeal and cricopharyngeal muscles of the inferior constrictor. So here in the Zenker's diverticulum or pharyngeal pouch, we have, it is an outpouching through the triangular area which is present between the upper oblique fibers and lower horizontal fibers of cricopharyngeus of inferior constrictor. I'll show you the picture, just a minute. Okay, this is the picture which is showing the Zenker's diverticulum. See, in the inferior constrictor we have two parts in the inferior constrictor. One, we have thyropharyngeus which is above, and we have cricopharyngeus which is below. So this is thyropharyngeus, okay, this we have cricopharyngeus, okay. So we have two things. One, we have thyropharyngeus. Second, we have cricopharyngeus. In between this thyro and cricopharyngeus, a diverticulum comes. There is a potentially weak space, and the esophageal wall starts to outpouch through this weak space between the thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus muscles. So this is called as Zenker's diverticulum, right? So this defect is called as Zenker's diverticulum. If the similar type of diverticulum occurs in the medial side of the neck, where it occurs below the cricoid cartilage, then that is called as Killian-Jamison's space. That is Killian-Jamison's diverticulum, okay. Anyways, next, if we see, the pressure in the cricoid cartilage increases whenever there is neuromuscular incoordination. So this whenever there is this diverticulum is formed, this will lead to neuromuscular incoordination. This will lead to increased pressure in the cricopharynx, leading to cricopharyngeal spasm. And because of this cricopharyngeal spasm, there is something called as cricopharyngeal achalasia. We can call this as cricopharyngeal achalasia also. Now, there is neuromuscular incoordination is also present, as I have said, between cricopharyngeus and thyropharyngeus. That is the reason why there is increased pressure in cricopharynx, causing cricopharyngeal spasm, leading to cricopharyngeal achalasia. This is present mainly in the posterior part of the neck and in the middle of the neck. So this is mainly posterior triangular swelling, which is most commonly on the left lateral. So it is present in the posterior and middle of the neck, that is posterior triangular swelling in the most commonly in the left lateral position, right? It is posteriorly seen. You can even see in this picture it is present posteriorly. Next if you see what is the clinical features. So in this picture, the patient presents with, in this Zenker's diverticulum, the patient mainly presents in the old age, that is more than 70 years of age, and there is sticking of sensation of food in the throat is seen, and here the patient presents with cough, salivation, intermittent fat dysphagia, gurgling around the noise, halitosis, that is bad mouth or odor, and there is metallic taste can occur. So it can also cause changes. Because all this occurs because of regurgitation of food from this diverticulated pouch which is there, okay. Now, what is the investigation of choice? Investigation of choice is, we have lateral view barium esophagogram. In this lateral view barium esophagogram, you can see this Zenker's diverticulum. I'll just show you the picture. So this is the picture of diverticulum which you can see here through lateral view barium esophagogram. Then what is the surgical? So here you should do surgery. Medical therapy will not work. So surgery is, first you can do, the surgery type of surgery depends upon the size of the diverticulum. If the diverticulum is less than 2 centimeters, then we have to do a myotomy. If the diverticulum is more than 2 centimeters, then we will have to do diverticulectomy. If the diverticulum is more than 2 centimeters, then we can do this diverticulectomy, or you can do diverticulopexy. What is diverticulectomy? See, this is the diverticulum. We give the incision here and we remove the whole diverticulum and we suture it. Okay, so this is diverticulectomy. Then what is diverticulopexy? In this diverticulopexy, here we will fix the diverticulum upward down to the posterior vertebral fascia. So once here you are fixing it upside down. like this. So once you fix it upside down, what happens is the food will go down through gravity. It won't go into this diverticulum. So here we will fix the this diverticulum upside down. Okay, that is diverticulopexy. Then we have endoscopic procedure. Endoscopic procedure is done if it is more than 3 centimeters in size. The procedure which is available is Dahlmann's operation. So Dahlmann's operation is here. There is here in Dahlmann's operation, this is the septum which is present between the diverticulum and the esophagus. Now this septum is now removed. Okay, this septum is now removed. Fine, because this septum is removed and we make it a common cavity, so that the food directly goes into the stomach rather than going into the diverticulum. Then we have complications. The complications of this Zenker's diverticulum includes, we have lung abscess. Most common complication is lung abscess. Other complications like pneumonia, perforation, bleeding and cancer are also seen. So this is the there is something called as Killian-Jamison's diverticulum, which I have already shown you. So this occurs below and lateral to the cricopharyngeus. Okay, I'll show you again this Killian's. So this is the Killian-Jamison's diverticulum, which occurs in the medial side, that is between the cricopharyngeus. To the end of the cricopharyngeus this occurs. So that is Killian-Jamison's diverticulum. Killian-Jamison's diverticulum, which occurs below and lateral to the cricopharynx. It occurs below and lateral to the cricopharynx. Okay. Yeah. So this is about the diverticulum. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about gastroesophageal reflux disease. Thank you.